I love the idea of uniform. I love having this sort of, you know, it's not boring to me. Like, it's boring to some people.
It's a uniform, but it's not necessarily regimented. I grew up in Bristol, Pennsylvania. It just seemed very oppressive, very hateful. When I graduated high school, I just fled.
I grew up in Yonkers, New York, and then when I was in junior high, we moved upstate to Pleasantville, New York. A 17-year-old or 16-year-old, and you could sneak down to the city. Jeffrey had been working at the Sound Factory, and we used to go a lot. We had seen each other, and we kept kind of lightly flirting with each other. And too shy to go up to each other. It took about, 4 weeks of us going back and forth, and Jeffrey was bringing his friend Lauren Roselli around. She finally kind of got fed up, so she kind of grabbed me and introduced us. I mean, when I first met Jeff, he's a little humble, but he had a line at the time. It was only around for a season, but it made a huge impact. His work was always about sort of this disco era kind of siren, this certain woman, and I think it goes back to
I think it's
you grew up.
that's the thing. It's like I so love the late '70s, early '80s. That was to me was when I came of age. There is the seediness of that period, but there was something very like elegant.
I loved gay culture in the '70s, like absolutely obsessed. You know, Robert Kramer's book Faggots it's a book, but like for me, like the fashion in that book was so inspiring. Been together for 18 years. I met Jeff, you know, wearing combat boots, blue jeans, suspenders, a white t-shirt, and a plaid shirt. And I mean, it's always been my sort of go-to look. In a lot of ways, it's an amalgam of different, these sort of male ideals that I look towards.
My grandfather, he was a farmer. I think I just kind of identified with the way he dressed. This was his look, and I always loved it.
These are from vintage Pendletons that we've collected over the years. We've just made little vests out of them.
I went on a cardigan spree this fall.
Yeah, Jeff will just make like 20 of something, and then we'll have...
And I hope they work.
There's different tribes in gay culture, and I love the idea of like that kind of preppy tribe too, and just that preppy aesthetic. And there's something funny about it too that I love. Like I like humor. I like laughing at myself a little. Like it's clothes, you know. It doesn't have to be so serious all the time. I love seeing the age in an older man or an older woman. It's like there's something amazing about that. You know, the white hair, like not. I'm really petrified at like the new breed of person we're starting to create. We all think that this is the ideal. You have to be skinny, you have to be this, you have to be that. When in reality, behind closed doors, most people, gay or straight, don't like that. We were told by a lot of people to like, you know, your image, it's so image-based. As a fabric appointment, when the girl was like, oh my god, you guys would be so great, and maybe wear this, and you know, you should really lose a couple pounds. I'm like, ugh. We get stopped all the time, and I think people really recognize us, and it's about creating that image. The industry is filled with these, like, you know, amazing characters. We lived on about Broome and Christie for a couple of years when we first met, and it was actually Keith Harington's apartment. East Village is there's no semblance of it anymore.
It's not
like,
seedy.
You know, and I miss the dirtiness.
No, that's what I missed. I'd be walking past the Ramrod, and out would come Ann Bass with some leather daddies in her arms.
Going to Save the Robots on Avenue D, like at 4 in the morning,
and not knowing if you're going to get stabbed.
There were these like New York girls that everyone knew about. Yeah, Sally Randall. This is a girl who just had such personal style.
She was working the door at the Palladium, and she wouldn't let someone of, say, like Andy Warhol ilk in because they were wearing beige. And she flat out said, you can't come in because you're wearing beige.
We just kind of met each other, and we just kind of, you know, it just kind of knew right away. We just got along really well, and it just worked.
I get a little too caught up in the fantasy, and Robert kind of knows how to rein that in.
It's just committing to something. We committed to a relationship, and we committed to working on that, and what that means to work on it. I love the idea of like somebody, you know, saving up to buy a dress and then wearing it till it's almost like threadbare, you know, and just because you live for that dress and you want it, you know. I hate the thought of someone buying a piece of clothing and for it to sit in the closet with a million other pieces of clothing that never get worn. When the thought of something still having a tag on it, like, breaks my heart. We're very process driven. It was like, let's see how this grows, and let's start with, like, the process. Like, this is what interests us. Like, we love how things are made. We love how things were made. Maybe it harkens back to our painting backgrounds, like our schooling and that. It's that whole Picasso thing of like, you know, you had to know how to draw the person before you could deconstruct that. And I think for us, it was like, you know, I wanted to learn as much as possible about how to make a garment, how to make the pattern, how to, you know, because that all informs your work. We loaned a dress to a friend of ours to wear to an event, and when we got to the event, it was this really bright green dress, and I was like, oh my god, that's our dress, but it's not. What's wrong with it? She had worn it backwards. And there was something so amazing about that, because I was like, oh my god, it looks amazing. And then she was so self-conscious, but I was like, no, it looks amazing, and that's what looked right on you, so what's wrong with that? Like, we're not necessarily saving people's lives with what we're doing, but you are, in a way, you are in that you're letting people kind of just have that kind of lightness come into their life.